What's up, guys? This is One UX1. I'm going to talk about the dark side of UX that people don't talk about, whether it's UX research or UX design. There is something that happens in the job that people don't really talk about. It's when you are unable to do your job because of the team or the managers. What does that mean? Sometimes you need the support of management and you need to get buy-in from stakeholders. For example, you might have a manager who doesn't really appreciate UX research and they think it's not that important, or they think, well, why are we paying this person to do this job? We can do without them. We know our product is good, or we know our website is great. People love it. Here's the data. And they think, well, we don't really need a UX researcher. And there's other people in another department or HR that have hired you, but somebody in the company doesn't really know who you are, what you do. So your job is to really explain to them, hi, I'm Cam, I'm the UX researcher, this is what I do, this is how I can improve the conversion rate, increase our sales, increase customer loyalty, and really sell yourself to them, communicate with them, book a meeting with them, and tell them all about what you do. Other problems you're going to face that people don't really tell you about is lack of time. So sometimes you want to test something, and they say, right, I want feedback from the users within a week. Usually, when you're in this job, you'll get about a week to recruit the users. So you'll decide who are your users, discuss that with the team, and then you'll go and use a recruitment agency or maybe a database you already have and contact users to really understand who your users are by recruiting them for user testing, so maybe user interviews or a focus group. Now, sometimes they say, right, well, that's too long. Our developers are waiting. They don't have much work to do. Can you just quickly give us feedback? Which is very, very hard to do. So you need to be patient, polite, talk to the team in an agile way so you work flexibly. But if you only have a week to do everything, you're going to have to recruit in a day or two instead of a week, because you need the 2 days to recruit, then you need 2 or 3 days to test, and then you need to analyze the data, so that's a very tight schedule, which normally takes 3 weeks. So these kind of things do happen. The other problem you might have is you may not have time to analyze. So again, synthesizing the data, so breaking down all that feedback, everything that users have told you, and then analyzing the data, that takes a few days. Writing a report takes a few days, or even synthesizing on a mural or Miro board or stickies on the wall takes time. So if they don't give you time, it is a big problem, but sometimes you don't have a choice. If the project's running to certain deadlines or sprints, which is usually you get a week-long sprint or 2 weeks of a sprint, and you must complete your task in that time. So sometimes deadlines can be really tight, but what I find is the job has peaks and troughs. So sometimes it takes a long time to do work and you get plenty of time to do it. Other times it's really, really quick, and every project varies. Some projects are worked on plenty of time to do UX research thoroughly. Other projects, no time. Literally, they want that things done super, super fast. And there's not a lot of understanding of what needs to be done. So it can be quite frustrating, but you've got to keep going, keep your professional manners and attitude, and really show them that, yes, I'll do my best. Now, if you're late by a day or two, it's not the end of the world. Usually people understand, but you must have your reasons and justify why you couldn't complete it in time. The other problem can be lack of tools. So sometimes you don't have the right software that you're used to, they haven't got a license or they don't want to pay for it, and you don't have the tools you need. I remember in one job I had, we had data protection issues. We weren't allowed any tools at all because they were worried about cybersecurity and attacks. So we were using Microsoft Word and Excel to do our work, which is almost impossible. We still had to manage it. We had no choice. So I was wireframing on Paint, literally on Paint, without Sketch or Figma. We weren't allowed to use anything else. I had to copy paste into Paint and then edit in Paint, which is unheard of, but you got to adapt. You have to be agile and work with the team. Now, when you don't have the tools that you really, really need, you just have to beg and borrow, ask people to share their login, their license. So if you need an access to, let's say, Figma, but they're using Sketch, then you need to just see, or sometimes I even pay for it myself. it's not worth all the hassle. I'll just buy a license or a subscription and use it myself. Another problem you can come across is teamwork. So sometimes there'll be somebody who disagrees with your research and says, well, I don't really agree with what you're saying. It may be developers who look at Google Analytics or something on the back end and say, well, this isn't really a problem. So for example, you are testing and you come across some feedback that users have said they're not happy with a particular feature or component on the site. And you say, well, this is the number, this 89% of users don't even use this feature. They don't even click on it. But the back end, the developers say, well, that's fine, but look at our sales. Our sales are phenomenal. So you're saying, look, no one's using this. This is wasted real estate, or we can improve this. And the testing says that users are saying, well, if we redesign this component, we may use it, or add better content. So get a copywriter to write better content. Then it's possible we might use it. The developer saying, no, we don't need to do that. Look at our sales, they're amazing. I can show you the analytics. You know, we have X number, 10,000 hits a week. We're doing great, we're amazing. So that complacency can be a problem, and you need to be evidence-based and say, right, guys, we have the evidence to show you that this could be used better, this part of the website or this page. If we can get a higher click-through rate, we can improve it or redesign it or add a new feature, then we will even increase those sales further. If it's 10,000 people a month, it can be 15,000. So you need to justify what you're saying. So always have evidence, always have proof. Add quotes to build empathy, as what a user said. Oh my God, what a waste of space. Oh, I didn't even see that. I didn't notice that component or that feature or that button. So if you have that evidence qualitatively, what users are saying, and quantitatively, so what the numbers say, then you've got a better chance of explaining to people exactly what you mean. Another issue that you might come across, another challenge in this job, is when you're working and you want to really write something in a report, for example, but they say, no, we haven't got time for a report, just write a one-page Word document. But you feel the report would have given much more depth, much more understanding, and you're not allowed to do that. Now, a report can take time. A report can take a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, depending on how in-depth it may be. It might be a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation that is 10 slides, 50 slides, even 150 slides, depending on how much was tested and what you found out and what you want to relay. So it can be quite frustrating that you can't tell the full story, and then you may feel like they don't really understand what users said, what the user needs are, what the pain points are, that list of pain points. But sometimes you want to graphically show it, so you want to screenshot it, add arrows, show it. This is where users don't know what to do. For example, it may be a input from the user of a date, and they need a calendar pop up so they can select from a date easily rather than input the date manually. So something like that, it'll be good if it's graphical and you can show it with an image. But if it's just a quick Word document with text, you can't really appreciate that. So those situations you can compromise and say, right, I'll create a Word document but with images. It'll be a bit longer. It won't be a one-pager. It'll be longer, but at least then they can appreciate what you're saying, what users are saying to you, and what they're explaining to you. That way, you've built now something that's usable for the stakeholders. You're happy that you're able to relay back, as an advocate of the users, relay back what the users are saying, and that way, that's sort of compromise. So the job always involves compromise. You've got to compromise with all stakeholders and ensure that they really work closely with you and you work closely with them to get the best results. So what you need to do when you have a challenge is communicate. Keep people up to date on what you're doing, what your tickets are in Jira or GitHub. Guys, this is what I'm working on, what your thoughts, and get feedback beforehand. So another pain point could be that you do all this work and somebody says, well, we didn't really need that report, or you could have done this in this time. So discuss with your lead, your user research lead, your manager, this is what I'm doing, guys, for the next week. And if they want you to change that task or do something differently, at least they've told you and you've told them. Then you haven't wasted your time, they haven't wasted their time. That really helps take the project forward without any of those sort of bottlenecks. If you have any other questions on UX research or design, drop them in the comment section. I'll get back to you, I'll reply to you, and I'll also make a video on the topics that you want. Thank you for watching One UX One, and I'll see you on the next one.